just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, kick the only Black member of the BART board off over some address dispute. Now, I gotta say, this almost made it into the last roundup last week, but I was hoping to get some more information on what the fuck exactly was going on and why. Now, y'all know my sis, Latifah Simon. That's my sister. She literally was the first guest on this podcast. She is my homegirl, and she is an elected member of the BART Board of Directors. I know this because I helped her get elected, honey. She is the only Black member of this board, about which we should have some critical commentary, because what does it mean when a transit agency, the largest transit agency in the San Francisco Bay Area, only has one Black person on it? Let me give some credit here to my sis, Crea Gomez, for giving us this rundown of the top lines of Latifah's tenure. Now, since our sis was elected to the board in 2016, she has ushered in a new Progressive Policing and Community Engagement Bureau, which basically included a successful Transit Ambassadors Program and Crisis Intervention Specialist Program to improve safety on BART, aka Safety Without Police. She also partnered with Google to provide 20,000 free BART rides for students on school field trips through the Free BART Rides for School Field Trips program. She partnered with the Alliance for Girls to launch the Not One More Girl campaign, and she changed the code of conduct policy to begin to address sexual harassment and gender-based violence on BART. She was the only BART director, to call for a new investigation into the 2009 murder of Oscar Grant at the Fruitvale BART station. And she helped to secure billions, that's right, billions with a B, billions of dollars for public transit, and kept people's jobs at BART during 2 years of the pandemic when the ridership on BART had dropped by 94%. Okay, so this is what I'm saying here. She brought in $108 billion, which is the largest federal investment in public transportation ever in this nation's history. She has stepped up and stepped out as a transit-dependent person herself who knows what it means to build a robust, affordable system that meets the needs of the people who depend on it the most. So, tell me why? Why, when she needed to move from her home because she was receiving death threats for her police accountability work, you tell me, why did she move into Oakland, onto a BART property, checked with the appropriate BART staff to make sure the move was within her district? Now, you tell me why she gets a call last week talking about, oh, Director Simon, it looks like you're 300 feet outside your district, and so you're going to have to forfeit your seat. Oh, yeah, you heard me right, 300 feet. BART now is going to appoint someone to finish her term. Now, you tell me, does that sound like it's on the up and up? What, or should I say who, caused BART staff to reassess whether or not Director Simon was legally in her district? Why did BART staff give her the go-ahead when they would know, or should know, better than anybody what the exact district lines are? Who was the staff person or persons who gave this advice, and who are they connected to? And also, check their bank accounts. I know from my work already that bureaucracies can be your best friend or they can be your worst enemy. And we already know the devil is at work. Now, wait a minute. There's more. Oh, I can't believe it. I know. There's fucking more. Now, don't you know, BART just went through this whole ass redistricting process. And they just approved new lines in the last week. Lines which would have Director Simon solidly in her district. So, was the plan to get her removed from her seat and then appoint somebody else? Who was you finna appoint? Now, I want to say something here. It is important that the board understand that this is not acceptable and we not finna let this stand. Now that the lines have been redrawn, the board must reinstate Director Simon immediately. The board must also call for an independent review of what happened and release the information to the public for reassurances, because this shit seems shady as fuck. Now, Latifah was overwhelmingly elected twice by the people of her district, and right the fuck now, those people are being disenfranchised. So what I need you to do is something for me, and email the BART Board of Directors, asking for just that: an immediate reinstatement of Latifah Simon to the BART Board and an investigation released to the public of what happened and why it happened and what is going to be done about it. You can contact the BART Board by emailing boardofdirectors@bart.gov or by calling 510-464-6095. 510-464-6095. Other things lady just ain't gonna do this week: Jussie Smallett getting 150 days in jail and 30 months of probation, and now he's out after spending 6 days in jail. Now, dear hearts, if I can be honest with you, I don't never be wanting to talk about this case because it's strange. It's frankly bizarre. And I wish we could have a more honest conversation about it, but anyway, child. Jussie Smallett was convicted of faking a hate crime against himself, and he was sentenced to 150 days in jail and 30 months of probation. And now he's out on bail pending appeal. Let me say first, I'm happy Jussie is out of jail. He really never should have been there in the first place. I mean, white people have spent less time in jail for trying to overthrow the government, and this issue definitely does not rise to the level of that, undoubtedly and without argument. The judge and frankly the city of Chicago clearly wanted to make an example out of Jussie, and that they absolutely did. I also want to say this very clearly. I do not see Jussie Smallett as a political prisoner, and let me explain why. A political prisoner can be defined as someone who is imprisoned for their views or their work that works against the status quo. Often, political prisoners are a clear and visible threat to the state or to someone in power. Yes, Jussie has been involved in some activist and charitable work. Smallett sits on the board of directors for the Black AIDS Institute, Sankofa.org, the Trayvon Martin Foundation, and the Rue John Foundation, which distributes clothes and school supplies to children in Jamaica. He's an actor, a singer, and a songwriter. The work he does is important, and it doesn't rise to the level of work that the state would attempt to intervene in. He has been an important voice for the acceptance of LGBTQ communities of color, and that too does not rise to the level of intervention by the state. We have talked about Brittany Griner as a political prisoner, and she is literally being held and used as a chess piece in an ongoing war between two countries. Jussie Smallett is not this. And if I'm being honest, I find it irresponsible to identify him in this way, as I think it obscures the dynamics that are actually at play here. There are a lot of arguments being made about if he did it or if he didn't do it. That doesn't matter to me. What actually does seem to be at play here, without getting too deep into the weeds, are some mental and emotional health issues, substance abuse issues, homophobia, and shame. None of us are ever going to know what happened in that moment, but whether we are willing to admit it or not, many of us thought something didn't sound right. And it doesn't. It's a ridiculous story, no matter how you slice it, whether you believe that Jussie committed a hate crime against himself or not. Now, I have my opinions on the matter, and I've chosen not to be super vocal about those opinions because what I want ultimately is health and healing for Jussie and his family. There are some good people riding hard for Jussie right now, and that's a good thing. And I am still longing for the real conversations to emerge from this one. Jussie is not a political prisoner, but he is someone, like the rest of us, who is subject to this fucked up society and the way it shapes us and our behaviors, for better or for worse. My prayers go out to everybody involved. May we one day have a really honest conversation about what happened so that we can be honest about what supports are needed in situations such as this one. Until then, let's just be glad that Jussie ain't in jail no more. Jail cannot help anything that is going on in this situation. That's a fact. Whew. Okay. Well, here's what we want more of this week, though. Let's dive right into that. So I have a new project coming out. I do. Lady has been ripping and running and is excited to announce a project that she's been working on that is now out in the world. It's called Uprooted, and it's a companion podcast to the Discovery Plus series by the same name. Uprooted is what happens when the true crime genre meets racial justice, and we love to see it. I am your illustrious host of a podcast that looks at the themes emerging from the docuseries on the Keith Warren case. Keith Warren being a young Black man in Maryland who was found hung from a tree, and his case was classified as a suicide rather than a homicide. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but I do know that I want to say it's something that you need in your life, especially because we're talking to people like Rashad Robinson, my bae and president of Color of Change, Linda Sarsour, also bae and co-founder of the Women's March and Until Freedom, and many, many, many more. So tune in wherever you get your podcasts. I know you can't get enough of Lady G. Me neither. All right. Can we give it up one time too on the list of things that we love this week for shapewear? Okay. Look, the pandemic has been rough. It's been rough on all of us. And I know I'm not alone here. I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to in the last year who have mentioned they're a little heavier than they were prior to the pandemic. And to that I say, listen, we're out here in the same boat, honey. My weight has gone up and down during the pandemic. I was holding it down on the Peloton for months, and that was giving me life, and it was slimming my waist. And then my relationship dissolved, and I got caught up in some shit and basically gained back everything plus some. Then I was on my shit, getting my shit right again, you know. And then break happened, and I was back up there drinking and eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And then I was back on my shit on some dry January nonsense. You know, I'll be doing that kind of shit. And then with this move and preparing to leave the Bay, whew, honey, I have been celebrating much more than I usually do. And so here we are again. Look, I don't believe in diet culture, and I do get it. When you don't feel like you're living your best life, it can take a toll on you. So let me offer you this for you and for me. I'm getting back on my shit. I am. I'm about to intermittent fast and do all the shit. And in the meantime, honey, shapewear is my bestest friend. Shapewear doesn't get rid of the curves. It just smooths them, and it gives you a little more leeway while you're figuring out your next moves. I'm here for it. And just in time for the few months before summer. Keep living your life, boo. There's stuff we can do in the meantime before we get to exactly where we want to be. And that stuff is called shapewear. Give it up. Okay, so now it is time for, you guessed it, ladies' love notes. Phew. Okay, well, my loves, I thought I would give you a quarterly update on how I'm doing with my yearly motto of patience and surrender. If I'm being honest, it's tough. And that's also how I know that this is exactly what I need to be working on. You'll remember that my commitment this year is to patience and letting things unfold. And surrender, not meaning giving up, but allowing new information to guide my steps, rather than trying to approach everything as does a bull in a china shop. Well, my friends, I am being tested all the way through. I've been feeling a lot like I'm in between phases, in between relationships, in between who I used to be and who I'm becoming. It's all getting real as real can get. And let me just give you a rundown of the week a la Lady G, just so you have a sense of what I'm talking about. So I've been preparing for weeks to move into my new home. My contractor is building some things there, and I'm excited about it. You know, updating the kitchen and building a new fence from the one that's on lean, if I'm being kind. You know, shit's kind of fucked up. A breakfast nook for one. That would be me. You know, that kind of thing. And the movers have taken my things and they've landed in my new destination along with my car. I've damn near been killing myself to spend as much time with my loved ones here as I possibly could. We've done all the reminiscing and I love yous and scheduling time to visit there. We've done so much of that we've done all there is to do with that. And everybody assured me that everything would be ready, right? Well, wrong, because literally 2 days before I'm supposed to move, the contractor says, "Oh, sister, I need another 2 weeks." Bruh, what? What you mean, 2 weeks? But this is what we do when we fly. We make new plans on the fly, and now I am very much still in between my new home and my forever home. So who knows? You may just see me one more again in these streets after all. That person I was super into? Yeah, I'm still into them, but wow, they're in the fucking wind. Here 1 minute and gone the next. Surrender here means letting that thing cook, as the old folks say. No more processing, no more long texts, no more apologies and analysis for lady for the next little while. I am surrendering and putting that thing on the shelf until I receive new information that gives me some guidance about where that fits in my life and frankly, whether or not it fits at all. I figure all that stuff is going to be here when I'm ready to pick it up again. But here we are in between my old life and my new life, whatever that may be. So my love note for this week is this. I saw a meme somewhere that said something about healing is when you're in between your old life and your new life. And it made me think that's what healing also requires is patience and surrender. I didn't know when I set these intentions that the mantra for the year would be about healing, but that's exactly what's happening. I've been taking stock of everywhere I've been, taking steps towards where I want to go, and using the lessons I've learned along the way to guide my steps and make new choices. Now, the new choices are uncomfortable. I want to stay in patterns that don't work for me because they're comfortable, and because to leave them is painful, even though they're super necessary. Like, I like this man a lot, but I don't like the contortions I'm being called to do just to be there, much less get anything from it. So in putting it on the shelf for a while, I can just look at it as it is. I can thank it for everything it's showing me about myself. Remember the mirror? I can bravely keep looking even though I wince a lot. And I can leave that part of me behind, the part where I overextend from a desire to feel connection. Connection for me has come from elsewhere. My loved ones who listen, who nod, who smile, and who remind me that somewhere out there is someone who won't run, and to save my stamina for that marathon. Speaking of marathons, my friend Max, who is a marathon runner, told me this one time about how he does it. We were talking about movements, of course, but he used this analogy, and I have found it useful in many contexts. When you run, there are many different phases of the process. Sometimes you feel great. You get that endorphin high and you feel like you could run forever. Sometimes you're just running, but you're not very present. You almost forget that your body is in motion, that your feet are touching the ground one at a time in a rhythm. You forget to breathe out one step and breathe in the other step. And then sometimes that run is the worst thing that has ever happened to you. It's painful. Your legs are cramping and they're on fire. You can't quite catch your breath and can't catch your stride, and you have no idea how you're going to keep going. But that is when you have to employ this trick to keep you on track. You just have to find peace in the pain. Finding peace in the pain doesn't mean you ignore it. No, ma'am, that actually makes it worse because your body is telling you all kinds of things you need to know. Finding peace in the pain is looking at it squarely in the face and letting it become a part of what you're doing. Not dwelling, not trying to fix it or change it, just being it. And eventually, you know that there will be a point when it stops, when you stop. It doesn't last forever. Having been working on myself for a minute now, I've heard this in other settings too. In somatics, folks say that we avoid pain and we think it's going to last forever. But in fact, most physical experience of pain only lasts a few seconds. It's the memory of that pain that embeds itself in you, makes it feel bigger than it is. Now look, even though I am saying all the words about healing and finding peace in the pain, let me be very clear. This shit hurts. I have broken my own heart twice in 1 year. Literally have left 2 relationships in 1 year, and that is a lot. But each time, I'm learning something new about how to do what's best for me, even when it hurts, even when I don't want to, but I know I need to. I'm learning that I broke my own heart caring for someone who can't care for me the way I want to be cared for and the way I deserve to be. Doesn't mean I don't still care for them immensely. It means I'm in the in-between. I loved someone, and I'm working on falling out of love with them so that I can move on with my life and find a love that is ready to love me too. Right now, if they showed up on my doorstep, I probably wouldn't have the resolve I'm talking with y'all about, but I'm working on it because I'm reaching for the life I want. In the meantime, I'm going to be a little more discerning about who I let have access to that heart of mine. She's pretty special, and she ain't got time for nonsense. I'm finding peace in the pain of a love that just can't be right now. I'm finding peace in the pain of a move that just won't wrap it the fuck up. Gonna put all that shit on a shelf for now and live my damn life in the meantime, because one thing I know for sure is that whenever I'm ready to come back to it, it's gonna be there. The move is gonna happen, and while we're at 50% now, soon we're gonna be at 100%, and I'm gonna look back and say, whew, remember how annoying that was? Anywho, where in your life do you need to find peace in the pain? That is Ladies' Love Notes for this week.